Hi everyone, welcome to our first ever Botanica Health webinar. Today's training will be on How to Sleep Your Way to Better Health by Miranda Wiley. Dr. Wiley is a Vancouver-based naturopathic doctor and graduate of the Boucher Institute in New Westminster. She has nearly 20 years experience in the natural health industry. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can enter them into the chat box available in the menu bar at the bottom of your screen. These questions will be addressed at the end of the presentation. Over to you, Dr. Wiley.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. And welcome, everyone. This is so exciting. Botanica's first webinar for the public. I'm very honored that I've been asked to give this talk to you today. Today, we're going to be discussing how to sleep your way to a better health. Kind of appropriate. Daylight savings is next weekend, I believe, or the weekend after, 2 weekends from now. So sleep is always going to be an element on people's minds at this point. So a little bit about me. As Amanda said, I graduated from the Boucher Institute of Naturopathic Medicine in New Westminster, British Columbia, and I practice in downtown Vancouver in Yaletown. I have a few more than 20 years experience in the natural health industry. It's what got me on my journey. I took a job at a health food store as a young teenager just for something to do in the summer. And by 14, I knew that I was going to be a naturopathic doctor, had to finish high school, go through undergrad, a few steps along the way, but I knew my vocation early in life, and I'm really grateful for that. Ongoing teacher. I do love to cook. That's kind of my time. Kids can go away. Mommy needs some time in the kitchen just to play with ingredients and create something that's wholesome and nutritious and tasty. Eternal student. I am terrible at saying I don't know. I'm good at saying I don't know yet, and then looking things up, which is kind of how things got started when I began in the natural health industry. There wasn't the internet, so it was a lot of going to the library and researching what things do. I do love yoga, and I do love my kids. So playful mother to 2 wee ones. I do my best to keep life light and playful as much as I can. Makes it a bit interesting when talking about sleep, though, because my daughter, who's a toddler, had me up teething last night, and my son had croup the night before. So let's talk about sleep, see what we can do about that. Today, we're going to go over rituals throughout the day. We'll talk about some daytime rituals to help with healthy circadian balance. Circadian rhythm is that day-night flow that comes and goes like the tide. It shifts in the winter, longer nights, shorter days, to the summer, shorter nights, longer days. And so it's in flux all the time. And if we're in sync with it, there's more harmony in our physiology. Determining your chronotype. So this is research by Dr. Michael Breus, B-R-E-U-S. And so I'll be referencing his work. It's very interesting, and there's a little quiz that you guys can do to figure out your chronotype. Some superfoods that can help you get a better night's sleep, which is ultimately what we want. And then some nighttime rituals. What are we going to do in the evening to help prepare the body and set the stage for relaxation and a restorative sleep? And then looking at some key herbs that you can look at to help support that should you be struggling with the ability to sleep or fall asleep. It's estimated that 40% of Canadians suffer from one sleep disorder or another, which is a bit shocking. That's almost half of our national population. So I want to take just a second to clarify sleep disorders. For me, they go into two rather distinct categories. On the one hand, we have disordered sleeping from lifestyle choices, eating late at night, watching an episode or 3 or 5, knowing that your alarm is going to go off at 6 in the morning, but I got to find out what's happening. So more like self-inflicted sleep disorders because it isn't a high enough priority. It isn't something that you're valuing sufficiently to really make sure it happens. And then on the other end are the people who are doing everything they can. They're trying their hardest. They're going to bed on time. They're following good sleep hygiene before bed. And then the hamster starts running in the wheel and they either can't fall asleep or they fall asleep fine, they wake in the middle of the night for some reason, and they can't get back to sleep. So they're having disordered sleep, even though they're trying their best to sleep. So it's a bit on the decision side versus your internal physiology. And I'm going to kind of hope to address both of those. First of all, if you aren't getting enough sleep, let's really drive home the point of why it's important. When we have had a good night's rest and adequate sleep, it improves mental function. And a lot of patients are coming in, a lot of magazine articles, products in the health food store are really being targeted towards brain health now. If you want to maximize their game, how can I be sharper? There's so much information coming at me and I need to know it all and be on top of my game. If you aren't getting enough sleep, you're setting yourself up for failure on that one. We have to get adequate sleep in order to have good concentration and creativity, be able to think outside the box, problem solve, better memory and recall, making good decisions. When we're sleep deprived, it tends to be more of a snap. Oh, whatever, I'll just, have this thing now and I'll deal with the consequences later, rather than thinking it through of, no, that's not in my best interest, so I'm actually going to say no to that. And it's much easier to be negative, to focus on the problem rather than the solution. Good night's sleep also helps us be more robust in our immune function. Also very appropriate in the autumn. We're moving indoors. There are a lot of viruses going around these days, so strong immune system is good. Lowering blood pressure, there's a caveat there. It will lower blood pressure in someone whose blood pressure is elevated. If you have normal blood pressure, getting a good night's sleep isn't going to drop it. If you're prone to low blood pressure, getting a good night's sleep isn't going to tank it into the gutter. We're really talking about people who are hypertensive, possibly on medication, possibly not. But let's say normalizes, helps to support normal blood pressure across the board. Helping to maintain weight, again, that's a bit of an indirect connection. When you aren't sufficiently rested, you haven't restored your battery and recharged it to 100% during that night's sleep, then you wake up the next morning, your body is at an energy deficit, so it responds by secreting more of the hormone called ghrelin that makes us hungry and less of the hormone called leptin that makes us feel full. So we're going into the day already prone to making bad decisions, and now we have a hormone going, eat more, and the hormone that says you're full, stop eating, isn't there to put you in check. So as part of a weight management protocol, getting adequate sleep stacks the cards in your favor. So it's more, it's easier to stay on top of any weight issues by regulating appetite, by getting a good night's sleep. And then better hormone balance. So anything from blood sugar balancing to adrenal function, which we're going to talk a bit more about during this presentation as well. Adrenals, thyroid, sex hormones, they all work together. Other hormones that regulate blood sugar, sleep-wake cycles. So they're all in concert with each other. So you've got the strings versus the oboes versus the percussion. They're all doing very different jobs. What we want is harmony so that the music sounds right and we're getting that full sort of symphonic display to our brains. Common causes of sleep disorder, lifestyle. So I touched on that, binge watching shows late at night, eating dinner too late at night, just not, or having really erratic sleep styles. Stress, acute stress, getting some bad news, that can interfere with sleep. It keeps you up because you're dwelling on it, but chronic stress as well. So that ongoing day-to-day slog, we need to get on top of our stress management, often with lifestyle, sometimes with herbs and nutrition as well. Pain, obviously, if you've got a headache or a sore shoulder, you've got arthritis or menstrual cramps, it's hard to sleep. So sometimes in order to address sleep issues, we need to work upstream and address those pain issues that are going on first. So if pain is your obstacle, I encourage you to work with someone on that. Depression and anxiety, it's a bit of a catch-22. If you're depressed or anxious, you're less likely to sleep well. And if you are not sleeping well, you're more inclined to be depressed and anxious. And that's because it all ultimately comes down to neurotransmitter balance. So if you are depressed, it might be that you don't have enough serotonin being made. And if you have inadequate serotonin, you're not going to be able to make enough melatonin to help you sleep. Anxiety, you might have excess amounts of glutamate or some other neurotransmitter that's very stimulating to the system, and then that's going to interfere with falling into a deep restful sleep. Some medications, particularly cardiovascular meds or thyroid meds, can interrupt sleep. Respiratory issues, so allergies, hay fever, a bad head cold, right? If you're stuffed up, it's hard to fall asleep or stay asleep. Sleep apnea would fall under respiratory issues to a degree. And then hormone imbalances. When I see a woman who is either in perimenopause or postmenopause come in, one of the questions I'll go, she's coming in for hot flashes or a change in libido, and I'm going to ask specifically about any changes in depression, anxiety, or insomnia. Because in that hormone shift that happens in menopause or perimenopause, then trickles down to a neurotransmitter imbalance, and that in turn can affect our sleep-wake cycles. Few women might notice it premenstrually as well, that they have a worse sleep for a couple of days, then their flow starts like, right, okay, I get it. And then they get back into a better rhythm for a few weeks. Any sort of liver dysfunction, blood sugar imbalance. So it's hormone at play. The blood sugar dysregulation, obviously very controllable through diet and lifestyle. We need to have our blood sugar slip. It needs to be lower at night when we sleep. That's what stimulates our brain to secrete human growth hormone. This is the hormone that helps to repair a lot of the damage that was done during the day. So we restore muscle function from the exercise that we did, repairs any damage done to the skin. So it's been called the anti-aging hormone, but it helps to undo damage and keep us youthful and ageless as long as possible. But if our blood sugar is dipping so low at night that it wakes us up in the middle of the night, your tummy's growling and uncomfortable and there's no way I can fall back asleep unless I have a snack, then we've got some bigger blood sugar issues. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to space food out throughout the day so that your blood sugar fluctuates gently and doesn't have any of those big pits that could then ultimately disturb your sleep, because that's a very controllable, very modifiable risk factor. And then I'm also going to say screens as well tend to be one of the lifestyle issues that are a big cause of sleep disorders, particularly in teens and young adults. So look, sleep, so sweet, so peaceful. And so melatonin, probably a pretty familiar word for many people. It is a hormone that's produced in the brain at the pineal gland, which is just a few inches back from the spot between your eyebrows, and in response to the ambient light outside. So it is our sleep hormone. Very, very important then that we sleep in as dark a room as possible. So investing in some blackout blinds. I also have blackout curtains to go over my blackout blinds because there's like that centimeter around the edge where a little bit of light can creep through. I also painted the inside of my windowsills black so it doesn't reflect any light. More about melatonin. So here we have the light coming in. The eyes are picking it up, but even when your eyes are closed, I can tell that I'm not in a perfectly dark room. So there is still some light coming through the eye, and some light, even if you put on an eye mask, some light can still come through that central spot and reach the pineal gland, and it senses what's going to happen. As it gets darker in the evening, our melatonin levels should rise. We'll see that on the next slide. That's then going to set us up for sleep. So if we go back, 150 years and before, there's no electricity. Candles are expensive. Fuel, and gas that you're going to burn for light. It was costly. So we went to bed when it got dark. We woke up when it got light. Now we have electricity. We don't need to do that so much anymore. So we need to address that lifestyle change. Advantage to some. So looking down at the bottom on the dark gray, plasma melatonin, it's going to be low during the day. That makes sense. We're awake. We're up. We're doing stuff. At around 9 o'clock is when it naturally begins to peak. And I'll argue that in 2 weeks, when we get into daylight savings, that will shift back a bit because it'll be dark at 5 in the evening or, a lot earlier than it is now. But naturally, it's going to start rising at about 9. We see that melatonin level go up. It's going to peak after midnight until about 3 a.m. So it should be at our deepest time of sleep. Then it naturally starts dropping off in a sort of more stepwise fashion, a very slippery stepwise fashion, till it's at its lowest. We're out of bed. We're doing our thing. Plasma cortisol, conversely, this is highest when we wake up in the morning. So cortisol is one of our adrenal hormones. It helps to regulate inflammation, and it also kind of gives us a little oomph. So we wake up in the morning, 7 or 8 ideally, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, ready to face the day. Our cortisol is at its peak. It's then going to drop throughout the day, lower midday than it was in the morning, lower in the evening than it was at midday. It is lowest at night when we sleep, and then naturally starts rising from about 3 o'clock onwards and gets ramped up, ready to face that day. So for some people, that waking up issue for 2 to 4 in the morning, for naturopaths, it tends to be a pretty big signal that we're like, okay, we need to work on something with your adrenals. Because if that cortisol peak is happening too soon and or melatonin levels are dropping off too soon, then you're going to have that window at 3 in the morning where your cortisol levels are higher than they should be, melatonin is lower where it should be, and you're up. And now what do? I'm wide awake. My alarm isn't going to go off for 3-4 hours. I'm going to be tired. I'm not going to fall asleep for another hour. And then more anxiety can kind of kick in there and fuel that fire. Looking at the green line briefly, that's our body temperature. highest during the day when we're up. We're using our cells, we're burning fuel for energy, we're moving around. And then it drops down lowest again after midnight. So that sweet spot in the early morning, late at night, or your late sleep time, early morning, is when our core body temperature is at its lowest. It's also when the ambient temperature outside is at its lowest, indicating that there is a connection between us and our environment. So sometimes it's something as simple as darkening the room and cooling it up. Open the window a little bit so you've got cool air coming in, get some nice warm snuggly blankies, and make it nice and dark. And that can be enough to help restore sleep-wake cycles in some people at the most basic. If not, we might want to dig a bit deeper, and that's where we're going to go next. So how do we restore a restful sleep? You're trying your best. You're going to bed, 9, 10, 11. The more hours that you can go to bed before midnight, the better. So if you're someone who sleeps from midnight till 7, step 1 would be, well, can you go to bed at 11:45? And when that gets comfortable, how about 11:30? Okay, now 11:15. So I'll start trying to eke that back with patience, but very, very slowly and gradually. Otherwise, it's jet lag. You go to another province and you're like, okay, well, it's only an hour difference, but that's making a big shift in how I'm able to fall asleep. Or daylight savings. Okay, that hour made a difference. So start with 15-minute increments and try to shift that there. And what else can we do? Part of it is understanding who you are. We know we're all unique. We've met those people who are wonderful energy and best creativity late at night. Other people who are like, I'm zonked by 8 o'clock in the evening, but I love being up first thing in the morning. I can get a lot done. And other people are like, okay, you're all crazy. I'm only middle of the day. So our chronotype is dictated in part by the PER3 gene. So a lot more people are doing their, say, 23andme.com or ancestry.com genetic testing, the cheek swab, send it off and get to know your DNA. And then we can run that through some engines and get an idea of where you're at genetically and how to best maximize your health. So this was the research, or is the research being done by Dr. Michael Bruce that I mentioned before. The book is The Power of When, if you want to look that up. And then there's powerofwhenquiz.com, and you can answer a few questions. It's only about 5 to 10 questions, and it lets you know which chronotype you are. And understanding that can help you to maximize your day. So dolphins, I'm a dolphin, we're the light sleepers. Dolphins are super cool because they're prey. They are a target for aquatic predators. So they sleep half of their brain at a time, and the other half stays awake and stays alert for danger. Then I'm going to sleep this half of my brain, stay awake looking for danger. So we're the light sleepers who are kind of constantly on alert and trying to get that restful sleep. Lions, these are the ones who wake up in the morning, face the day. A lion generally has completed their first kill before dawn. So these are your natural early risers. I love getting up at 3, 4 in the morning. It feels great, but they're zonked by 8 o'clock at night. Wolf, the opposite. The wolves, they're nocturnal. They're going to prey on all of those little creatures that come out at night, and that's how they're going to feed themselves and perpetuate their species. And they tend to sleep in the morning. These are not your morning people. These are your evening people. And then the bear, this is the bulk of the population, more than 50%. And we all work on a bear's schedule. So the bears get up with the sun, they go to bed when the sun goes down, they like that full 8 hours. And so the work day of 9 to 5 or the school day of 9 to 3, we're all needing to, us wolves, lions and dolphins need to accommodate to the bear's schedule. Up with the sun, down with the sun. And so depending on which one you fall into, there are optimal times of day to exercise, optimal times of day to eat, when to do your big thinking, creative projects, and when to do your more mundane, okay, now's when I'm gonna clean the kitchen, answer some basic emails, but just like deal with that day-to-day grind rather than actually, grab the reins and take charge of life. So interesting to go to powerofwhenquiz.com, learn which one you fall into best, and then you can reference Dr. Bruce's work or a chart like this and see when you're gonna be at your best. So daytime prep, regardless of whether you are a bear or a lion or a dolphin or a wolf, when you wake up in the morning, we want to start with natural daylight on our eyes. This can be tough for the lions when they're waking up and it's still dark outside. But if you can open up the blinds, open up those curtains, and get the natural sunlight coming through on your brain and on your eyes, that's going to help your body quickly metabolize any last remaining melatonin in your system. The melatonin's gone. You're going to feel more alert and more energetic, ready to face the day. Then starting your day with a good breakfast. One that has some protein in it, some fat, and some fibrous carbs. So I really prefer sort of a whole food carb, really low on the glycemic index, get that protein base in. Now we're setting the stage for a nice, gentle blood sugar rise that will sustain us through till lunch, which for me is ideally 4 to 5 hours later. I don't want people eating less than 4-hour windows. There's a number of reasons. I don't know if I'll be able to delve into that too much in this talk. Getting daytime exercise, and whether that be on the aerobic side or the more yin, yoga, Pilates, core strengthening stuff, and what time of day you do which depends in part on your chronotype. Dolphins do best waking up in the morning and doing some aerobic exercise to help, throw off some of that anxiety so that they've burned it off for the day. Meditation, visualization exercises, great throughout the day, but particularly in the morning, set the stage. What do I want to accomplish today? What's bothering me from the past? Can I let that go? Making sure you don't have any caffeine past 2 p.m., even if you are a wolf. We just want to let the system be naturally awake rather than forcing it to be awake. And then considering daily adaptogens. These are herbs that help to regulate our stress response, and so they nourish our adrenals and help to support them. So I just said, adaptogens are herbs and or mushrooms that support our body's natural ability to deal with stress. So you get thrown a curveball, because that's what life does. Do you crumble down? Oh my gosh, I can't deal with this. I'm so overwhelmed. Or is it like, okay, yeah, I got another stress. I'm going to deal with that this way. Mushrooms and herbs that are adaptogenic help us to choose the more positive response because they help us to adapt. And so whole body support, they often help to support immune function as well, or possibly they're calming, or possibly they're going to support oxygenation of the bloodstream and help with exercise. They're helping our bodies to adapt to stress. And let's face it, stress is always going to be there. And if it wasn't, life would be pretty darn boring. Reishi Mushroom, wonderful adaptogen. This has been around for over 4,000 years in traditional Chinese medicine. It showed up in the first written Materia Medica more than 2,000 years ago. So great, great evidence on reishi. It's been called the mushroom of longevity. It is a whole body adaptogen, helps kidney, liver, heart, immune function, the whole gamut. Also definitely helps to support the adrenals and the nervous system, and helps to regulate immune function and inflammation. So at least 1,000 milligrams, I think, is a good serving size, 1,500 for some people, 2,000 for others. And we definitely want it to be organic, so we know that there's no heavy metal contamination. The whole foods diet, I'm just going to pull out the highlights here. I think magnesium is a big deficiency in most people that I meet, and it's one of the easiest ones to correct dietarily. You know food has magnesium in it if it's green. In the same way that, it's green. So the chlorophyll molecule has a magnesium right in the middle of it. It's built into that chlorophyll structure. So you see that green, you know there's magnesium there. So a big plug for more dark green leafy vegetables in the diet. And magnesium helps our muscles to relax, and it helps our brain to come down. It can temper some of those neurotransmitter imbalances by opening up different channels in the brain. Vitamin D helps the absorption of magnesium, and it's another really common deficiency, particularly going into winter, somewhere like Vancouver where it's really dark and we don't get a lot of sun. More vitamin D, more magnesium. Minimizing stimulants and depressants, so easing up on caffeine, nicotine, sugar, and alcohol as much as possible, putting them in their place. And then protein regularly throughout the day. So most people, the average adult needs, let's say 20 milligrams of protein 20 grams of protein 3 times a day. So breakfast, lunch, dinner, and that's going to help to stabilize blood sugar levels and support optimal tryptophan levels. Tryptophan makes serotonin, helps with mood and cravings. Serotonin makes melatonin, helps with sleep. So then our preparation for bedtime. I mentioned briefly I have a toddler and a kindergartner. This is what we do when you've got kids. You set the stage for bedtime as a routine of pajamas, then story, then song, and then it's, teeth are in there. You've got that routine, and we don't do that as adults. So setting yourself up for success with sleep. Having a light meal, not too close to bedtime, so eating, I'd say 7 at the latest, and then you setting yourself up for that very gentle blood sugar dip that's going to happen while you sleep, when you release human growth hormone and you repair all the damage that was done for that day. Disengaging from screens at least an hour before bedtime. So if you use your phone for your alarm, right after dinner, set your alarm for the next day, put it aside. Dim the lights in your home, set with candles and lamps, no overhead lights, and set the stage of like, Now I'm moving into more of an evening relaxation state. Turn off Wi-Fi before bed if you can. Ideally, your phone is on airplane mode anyway. Also look at things like night shift on your phone, where it's going to be a darker screen if you do have to look at it at some point. Keep the bedroom dark and cool. We talked about that. And setting a regular bedtime and wake up routine, even on weekends. So going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. It's wonderfully supportive for your adrenals and really helps your body to know sleep is coming, waking is coming. And the more that gets imprinted, the more those pathways get reinforced and it becomes easier. And then developing that relaxing bedtime ritual for you. So a bath, stretching, reading a book that isn't so intense, or magazines, but something that's enjoyable and not going to stimulate your brain too much when you're trying to get to bed. Whatever that may be. A little bit of tidying up, so you're waking up to a cleaner home in the morning, whatever it may be that calms you down. Other adaptogens to look at then that can help support that nighttime ritual are ashwagandha. Again, this is an ancient herb that's been around for over 3,000 years, or we know of its use for more than 3,000 years in Ayurvedic medicine. It's a calming adaptogen. So some adaptogens give you a bit of a lift and some energy. Some are neutral. They're just going to feed the adrenals and help you stay even keel. And some of them are calming. So this is the best one when you've got one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake at the same time. And like tired but wired, just can't function. Ashwagandha is going to help you deal with that stress and the overall wired state while also helping with the tired state by soothing you down. Helps to support adrenals and nervous system, helps to support thyroid function and libido. And women, it's also helpful to help your body absorb iron. So adrenals, thyroid, and iron absorption, wonderful herb for women. Men too, but particularly I think of women. Passionflower. I mean, just look how beautiful that is. This is a wonderful herb. It depends on the dose. At a lower dose, it's a nervine. It's going to be calming, relaxing, but you can function. You're not going to be groggy. You can still have conversations. You can drive a car, operate machinery. Taking a higher dose, it becomes hypnotic. So now we're talking about something that's really going to help support sleep. That lower dose during the day if you tend to be anxious, with a higher dose at bedtime to help fall asleep. It's also one, personally, I have it on my nightstand. If I'm woken up in the night by a child or by my own dolphin brain, then it's a nice one to turn to and just get on the Passionflower just to help soothe that mind and slow it back down without risking feeling groggy and kind of hungover the next morning. So you just want to help settle the brain and soothe out those brain waves. It's also antispasmodic. So again, if you got muscle tension, it's going to help relax you for sleep. Pain reliever. We talked about how pain can be an issue for getting adequate restorative sleep. So Passionflower's got that helpful element too. Calming the nervous system, supporting sleep without morning grogginess. I talked about that. So any sort of spasms or twitches, and specifically for those who can't fall asleep because their minds keep running. So us dolphins, always thinking, only half of my brain is asleep. Passionflower helps that half of the brain to have a nice sleep while keeping the other half of the brain nice and calm. So I would choose the dosing based on the individual. We can definitely go a little bit higher at bedtime, and you might need to do maybe a little bit an hour before bed and then closer to bedtime, and then leave it on your nightstand if you are prone to nighttime waking. So Sleep Through is a combination of 4 herbs that is able to help regulate high cortisol levels at bedtime. So if you're like, I'm so tired, but after 8, I'm getting my second wind and now I have too much energy, this is where the Sleep Through comes in helpful. You've got the ashwagandha, contains a compound called triethylene glycol that helps to induce sleep. Magnolia soothes cortisol levels, so it's too high. We want them lower before bed. Passionflower, relaxing, nervine, antispasmodic. And then jujube, more sleep-inducing, more hypnotic, and also analgesic, so also helping with any sort of pain issues that might be going on. We're trying very hard at Botanica to make herbs and superfoods easy for you to incorporate. So we have some superfood beverages, we have elevated proteins, we have 3 of them, and then a range of liquid capsules. And that would be the Sleep Through that we just talked about. That's most appropriate for today's discussion. Other things to consider would be the lavender moon milk. So this is a nourishing, relaxing beverage. We've got 2,000 milligrams of ashwagandha. It's a pretty hefty serving of that calming adaptogen. Organic lavender and tart cherry. Tart cherry helps with pain. It's also a natural source of melatonin in microgram amounts rather than milligram amounts, but still it's in there. And no sugar or stevia. So it's got some natural sweetness from the coconut milk powder, and then there's some monk fruit in there as a flavor enhancer. The perfect protein elevated for adrenal support. You've got your 20 grams of organic plant-based protein, so great for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, just to take away some of that stress of cooking. Ashwagandha, 2,000 milligrams. Reishi, 1,500 milligrams. I've talked about both of those. Vitamin C helps to feed the adrenals. Really easy to digest. It's coming from quinoa, coconut, and sprouted and fermented brown rice. 100% organic all the way through, including the flavor, no sugar or stevia. And then the liquid capsules, these are concentrated liquid extracts, so it's a herbal medicine to help with sleep, and easy for travel too if you're jumping to a different time zone. So the key takeaways from today, it was a lot to cram into half an hour, but our key takeaways is that we want to create a morning ritual. So you start your day with a pattern that your body recognizes, that the adrenals understand. Natural sunlight, bit of mindfulness, meditation. What am I going to do? What am I visualizing to get done today? Some protein. Integrating plant-based protein and magnesium-rich foods into your diet, so you're getting good nervous system and blood sugar support. Finding your best time of day, so looking at your chronotype, so that you can maximize your performance. Should I do this before lunch or after lunch? Should I do this in the evening? When am I going to get the most bang for my buck based on who I am? And then creating that nighttime ritual. So, we remember the ABCs and the XYZs, and all the letters in the middle kind of get mixed up. That's okay. We can play with that. If you got your ABC in the morning and your XYZ at bedtime, then you're telling your body, we're in that same pattern, you know what to expect. Integrating herbal medicine as needed. Some people are great sleepers. My husband doesn't need any herbs. He's fine. He just closes his eyes and he's out. I like the Passionflower. I like having the sleep through caps. I like having some other herbs around on my nightstand or, in my medicine cabinet, just so they're there if necessary. But we really want to help support a nice, deep, more restorative sleep, so that you're healing, you're integrating, you're at your best mentally, emotionally, and physically every day. So hashtag Botanica Sleep Ritual. Tell us what your sleep ritual is. So tell us what it is. Go to hashtag Botanica Sleep Ritual and let us know what you do to help set the stage for sleep in the evening. And in doing so, you're entering the chance to win $500 worth of Botanica products, which includes our new lavender moon milk for you to try, as well as the Sleep Through liquid capsules, so you're best supporting your own sleep cycles. So thank you so much. If there are any questions, I'm going to be staying on the line, or you can hashtag us, send them at www.botanicahealth.com. Use the hashtag Botanica Sleep Ritual to tell us what your sleep rituals are, and then join us for the Botanica Sleep Challenge. I went a few minutes over. I hope it was informative and you got some good takeaways that you can integrate tonight, creating that sleep ritual that works for you, starting with a waking ritual tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Dr. Wiley. That was very informative.